Hey guys, welcome to MVP Coach's Corner, where Bro Logic goes to die, covering nutrition, coaching, PEDs, personal experiences, living the lifestyle. How are both of you guys doing this weekend?
Great.
Doing
I'll
pretty
let
good.
Coleman answer first.
You already answered.
Go ahead.
Pretty good. How are you,
I love
Mark?
that.
Yeah, how about you,
I can't
Mark?
complain, dude. I can't complain. I'm kind of pumped that Aries now closing at 7, so that's
Oh yeah.
that one dead hour is now gone. So happy about that, and can probably maybe train at night now. Compared to training at 6 a.m. Because I can train at 7. I'm okay with training at 7 p.m. I wasn't okay training at 8 p.m. every night. I'd much rather train at 7 a.m. than 8 p.m.
Yeah, it makes a big
Yeah.
difference.
Yeah, because
That 1 hour plays a difference.
like when I was going to Iron Rev with you during your prep, I was
Mm-hmm.
getting home 11:30 or midnight.
Yeah.
Like, dude,
Same.
I have my last meal at like 12 o'clock. Fucking sucked.
No.
Yeah. I know about that.
Hey, I'm like that's the one thing I like about waking up early is that like I rarely miss a meal or have issues missing a meal because I'm done food so early. Like
Mhm.
I'm done food by 9 p.m.
Yeah, same. And I
Like
probably eat one less than you.
that's why I don't like the weekends. Like I specifically don't like the weekends because I sleep in 2 more hours and it fucks me so hard because I'm like, oh goddamn, I actually have to stay up now.
hmm Yep, agreed.
Weekends are not my best either. So
Dude, weekends are everyone's like shitty part. Like that is the only time I like. Not saying I dislike bodybuilding, but I think the only time I kind of like wish I ate less food. Like it's
oh yeah.
significant on the weekends because like you want to go out and do things sometimes, and you know like I totally want to do that, but like I don't want to always bring a meal somewhere with me at 11 p.m. at night. Like at 11 p.m. at night, I want to be done eating food. Like everything's done. I don't want to be worried about hey I have to eat again in 30 minutes. I don't.
Feel you. I feel for you on that.
In prep, though,
Is
I
this
feel
shit
like
still
it's not
squeaking?
bad because you're hungry.
No.
Okay, good. I'm convinced this is squeaky as fuck.
No, it's
For
not that
those
bad.
who can't, those watching on YouTube, I'm talking my desk because I'm a complete retard when it comes to technology, and I've been trying to set up this microphone, and we finally got set up now. But now I can hear everything in the background.
I'll adjust it
Thank you, thank you.
eventually. Yeah. I just gotta download a program on your laptop.
There we go. There we go. But that being said, I know we wanted to cover Bloodwork this weekend and the importance of it and why we need Bloodwork, especially at the beginning of the process, to have a full understanding of what's going on with someone. And which is cool because, like, I know you haven't worked with anyone before me, Coleman, but I know
Nope.
you have worked with someone else, Bree. I know you have other friends that work with other people, um, and not it's not always something requested by everyone, right?
Mhm.
It's pretty common to not to like most people I've talked to that coach, they require
Mhm.
it.
Yeah,
But then again, the people I know in the industry are because of you for the most part.
this is also true. This is also true.
A
Yeah,
lot
and
of the
like,
coaches I know are from you. Yeah.
Yeah, I feel
and
like
I will say,
Go ahead.
go Bree.
No, you're good. Go
Go.
ahead.
I will say that we're lucky in the New Jersey area and where we kind of are that we do have a lot of good coaches in our area. We do.
Oh
Uh,
yeah.
and they do things the correct way and the way that they should be done, which is great because it makes it much more competitive, not only from a coaching level, but also from a clientele level. Is that everyone's getting the right, is a lot of people getting the right information, and that's actually making them a better athlete in the long term. But like, especially when you go to some states where bodybuilding is not big, especially like in the Midwest, like you don't know anyone who actually bodybuilds. Like all your bodybuilding friends are online because you know what? Nowhere in Bumblefuck, Montana is anyone actually competing, right? Like a lot of these Midwest states have like one bodybuilding show a year or two. They don't have a lot, and it's because there isn't a massive bodybuilding population over there.
So you get to like Utah and then you got Shane Hewley out there and he's what I think he's got what 7 or 8 shows out there every year. something like that, just in Utah alone.
Yeah. And again,
He
like
kind
there's
of
some
he's
states
like
like
one of the
that,
best
and
ones in the Midwest.
you totally do have some places like that. Like I think Utah is a big correlation to be next to California. A lot of people from California move over. It's almost like the PA of New Jersey. I'd almost compare it to. It's a
Yeah.
slightly more inexpensive state, but in that case, a much more inexpensive state. And a lot of them end up working here eventually anyway.
Mhm.
Cough, cough, cough.
Yeah, roommate.
Yeah.
Mm,
But like that being said, like if people didn't know, especially especially newbies, I'll start with newbies. A lot of
right.
newbies possibly wouldn't know out of the gate that this is something that this should be expected. A lot of people sometimes look at it as an additional expense for people who are very far into this industry.
Yeah,
Yeah.
but
And that's what
meanwhile,
I
it's
was
literally
going to
just like
say.
covering our
Yeah,
With
bases.
agree.
that's what I was going to say with not having a lot of coaches up here, for one, and then two, a lot of new people getting into it, so they don't really know what to expect and what to look for. So they end up not getting the blood work because they're not
Yeah.
asked of it.
I will say when I had the metabolic roadmap, when I would ask people for blood work, they would be baffled. They'd be like, why? I'm like, well, I need to see what's going on the inside. They're like, oh no, I'm good. I'm like, no, it's not how it works. They're like, oh, like I'm not high cholesterol or anything. I'm like, there's a lot of things beside high cholesterol that I want to look for.
Mhm.
I'm like, do you know like roughly where your hormones are at? And you're like, what do you mean, like my testosterone? I'm like, yeah, like it's good. I'm like, what does that mean? Well, I get erections. I'm like, that again. This this isn't a good indicator of what's good or bad, right? So like, please order me some blood work. And honestly, at the end of the day, if you have someone who's competent enough to read blood work, just talking about a $200 investment at the highest, just to have good insight if you have the proper things somewhat going on and things are in good levels, not even for body comp change, but just for general health. Why wouldn't you want to know?
Right.
Yeah, exactly. I'd rather know what's going on the inside because if I have to fix it, I'd rather fix it and
Yeah,
get
and
ahead
that's
of
what
it
like
before symptomology catches up to me.
yeah, like it blows my mind that like I don't go to the doctor for a checkup every like a regular annual checkup. I will schedule things to get done, but like I don't go get a regular checkup every year. I'm kind of like my own physician from that perspective. I just book appointments. Oh, I want this done, and I have someone who writes me scripts. So like I works out in that manner. But that being said, it blows my mind that people will go like 5 years, 6 years with no blood work. I'm like, what? And especially someone who's
Yeah.
already like not the healthiest person in the world. Like I have some overweight clients that are like borderline diabetic or have high cholesterol. Like you haven't got anything checked in 5 years, and you knew you had high cholesterol. Like, well, yeah, it's probably get better, but why?
I feel like people do that because they don't want to know how bad it really is. Like if they don't see it, then it's fine
Yeah,
in their
it's
eyes.
not real, right? It's
Right.
not fucking real.
Yeah.
Because
It's just a suggestion.
yeah, that's what it is. It's almost like I'll use them when I was young. When I was in college, when I was trying to bodybuild and being in college, I was always super fucking broke because I between spending money on gear and fucking supplements and like fucking college books and shit, I was always fucking broke, and I hated looking at my checking account because it reminded me of how broke I was.
Mhm.
So like that is the comparison. Like I think of immediately. It's like, oh, I know I didn't do anything to make my cholesterol better. So why would it be better? So like, you know what? I just want to look at it because if I
Yeah.
see it, then it's real.
Mhm.
I love
Like
that.
buying Crocs and not looking at how much you spent on it.
Yeah, no, I'm never
We're
gonna
not
be in
going to talk
favor of
about
this.
that right now.
For those watching, our friend over here just spent what, like $300,
200.
$200 on what's his name again?
Lightning McQueen.
Lightning McQueen fucking Crocs, like the
Please tell
guy
us
from fucking
what's so
Cars.
special about these Crocs.
They light up and they got his mouth on it. Dude, in the front little toe box, it's got his mouth.
Can you put stuff in the mouth?
And where are you going to wear these fancy little shoes?
My check-ins? Is that what you said?
You're muted.
Yeah, you're muted, bro. He said check-ins, so I'm gonna have to
How
look
did I
at
accidentally?
Coleman.
I don't even know how I accidentally muted myself, but yeah, check-ins around my house. I don't know, maybe to client shows. We'll see. They'll drip too hard, man.
If any of you are watching this, would you? I want you to put your input below that.
Please.
Would you purposely talk to someone who's wearing Lightning McQueen
Queen.
Crocs? Because I probably
It's a
wouldn't. I would assume.
It's a conversation starter.
I love it. I love it. So, like, let's talk about what are some basic markers that we look for when it comes to blood work. So, like, the first thing, especially for a weight loss client, I obviously look at basic things like where are hormones at, where are obviously testosterone, estrogen, T3, T4, where are these at? But also one of the big things too that get my eye immediately, because I'm talking about a weight loss client. I'm assuming a lot of them, especially if they're coming from like not living the lifestyle, eat a lot of junk food, right? We can kind of
Mhm.
assume that like they didn't eat McDonald's every day, but like you know what, like they wouldn't worry about having like a microwave meal or maybe going to Chipotle more often than you I would, right?
Yeah.
And like obviously like if they're gaining weight pretty quickly based on the diet, we can assume that something might be downregulated or something may not be functioning 100% correctly from a metabolic function standpoint, right?
100%.
Mhm.
Exactly. So like I'll use like something like insulin resistance, right? So looking at glucose, right? Now, obviously this person probably wouldn't always fast this long in the morning and they probably would never check their blood sugar out of any other point in time unless they have diabetes or pre-diabetic, right? So like them getting the blood work done and seeing where the glucose is at is a good indicator for obviously the coach but also themselves to see where they truly fall. Now, that being said, with a lot of people eating processed food, things with a lot of like processed oils in them as well, things like insulin resistance are much more popular than we probably ever seen. Um, a large portion of this is like things like soybean oil being added into a lot of the products out there. Like if you go down in the freezer section of most grocery stores and you look at anything that's kind of microwavable, that's not a vegetable, there's soybean oil as one of the first ingredients in there. And it's something that was never really used in food years ago, but is obviously used a lot more because it's also flavorless and extremely cheap to use in products. But like the cool study that I like to cite when it comes to this, but like when we look at some clients' blood work that have elevated glucose, we can obviously ask them first, did you actually wait and fast the correct window of time, right? Because like the first assumption is, you know what, maybe they didn't fast 8 hours, maybe they fast 7 hours, right?
Mhm.
And we can assume that obviously if they actually waited the appropriate amount of time and glucose is elevated, it could be one of two things. One being insulin resistance, like we're just talking about, other one being really bad stress or cortisol management. Because we look at what the pathway of what actually happens with cortisol. When cortisol is released, your body goes into somewhat of a fight or flight mode. Now, what happens is your body releases glucose instantly. Because again, if you're in fight or flight, you're either going to fight for your life or you're going to run from danger, right? For your life, right? So having more glucose readily available is extremely important in that true situation. But if the situation is that you and your wife are just fighting, or you're stressed at your job, or you have a bunch of shit you have to do tomorrow, or blah 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 blah, it's not advantageous to have your glucose elevated. And cortisol does elevate in the morning regardless, because it also is the hormone that wakes up in the morning. But if this person has poor cortisol management, their blood sugar is going to be elevated every single morning, which is not a good place to be in either. So with that marker, we can look at both departments. Now, the cool thing about both these things is that we can kind of figure out where it came from initially.
Mhm.
And we kind of just did this with one of our clients recently. We
Yeah.
were checking his fasted glucose 3 times a week, and normally 2 out of the three, they would be elevated, and 1 or 2 more might be good. Um, and after a period of time, looking at what time he was eating his last meal, I was like, this is kind of strange for his blood sugar to still be elevated this long later, especially after a meal. So I'm believing it's strongly related to cortisol management. So we started having him check his glucose before he went to bed and when he woke up in the morning. And we were noticing before bed each night, his blood sugar was about 10 points lower than what he was waking up at. which would give us the assumption it's not insulin resistance. It would actually be cortisol management then. And now we can take a deeper look in a couple things. We can look at what is he doing to regulate stress during the day. We could also look at what his sleep looks like, right? Because if he's not getting enough deep sleep and he's not really going through his REM cycle correctly, this would affect stress as well. One other thing we could also look at too is if it's not environmental stress, is it physical stress, right? How much volume does this person have when it comes to their training? Or do they have a very stressful job? Do they work outside? Are they like a nurse and get 16,000+ steps in a day? Because it doesn't always have to be environmental stress. It could be physical stress causing this elevation as well, which I understand seems very counterintuitive, because if you're very physically active, why would your body excrete more glucose? But again, just the amount of stress someone's under, it's almost like running off stress at that point. But going back to the actually insulin resistance part of this, there's a cool study I love citing always when it comes to this, and it's strictly about soybean oil. And the study is actually soybean oil is one of the most obesogenic oils out here, but they compared it initially to coconut oil. Because for a long period of time, people used to say coconut oil was obesogenic by nature. But one of the cool things they actually found in this study was not only did soybean oil elevate glucose similarly as fast as fructose did, and fructose I mean by that is sugar derived from fruit or a vegetable, but it actually elevated higher. So we look at the orange line over here. The orange line over here is soybean oil, and we look at the green line over here, and this is fructose. And we look at this almost a 200-point deeper elevation going with the soybean oil, which you would be like, holy fucking shit. You're telling me that it's affecting blood sugar twice as much as fructose. You're saying that actual fat, something with no carbs, is affecting blood sugar more than a carb directly. And this is also why like food choices deeply matter, right? Because like, let's say if someone's doing like a keto-based diet, right? If you're doing a keto-based diet and your blood sugar is elevating for the fats you're eating, is that really helping?
There might be something wrong. Might be something wrong there.
It doesn't really help you as much, because like one of the things about obviously like keto is like you don't make as much glycogen, but you store glycogen, right? You can't live without it. You would literally die. You can't move a muscle without glycogen. It doesn't happen. Just gluconeogenesis happens. But that being said, like food choices matter so much, because if you just counted fats as a fat, you would literally be eating a fat that affected blood sugar.
Yeah. And counterintuitive, if you think it's a fat, it shouldn't elevate your blood glucose at all, because it's not an energy source.
Is the insulin resistance, right? Now, every meal following that, now I have insulin resistance. At any meal I typically eat, my blood sugar is not going to regulate as fast as someone else, right? But in essence, all I'm saying is that from this perspective, that I have insulin resistance, so my pancreas does not produce as much insulin, the correct amount of insulin, as it normally would in the correct scenario. And if my blood sugar is staying elevated for a longer period of time, my body doesn't have a reason to really ever use fat as fuel, right? I have a great source of fuel directly in my bloodstream already. Why would I pull from another source? And then I eat my next meal 2 hours later. Guess what? It's going back up and taking even longer to come back down. It's in essence a constant state, and that's why when it comes to those clients coming for weight loss, the glucose is one of the first things I look at, because I'm thinking, what did this person eat before? Like, what was their lifestyle? Were they eating like lots of whole foods, or were they like eating like a normal American, the SAD diet, right? The standard American diet.
Yeah, that's a big one.
Well, all right, cool. So we covered glucose. What's the next one you want to go to, Coleman?
I would say looking at their liver enzymes.
Yeah.
Just from a reactive standpoint, and their bun and creatinine, you can kind of tell if they're constantly dehydrated or if they're properly hydrated all the time.
Totally.
Even though it's just a snapshot in time, but
exactly.
it still gives you a good reference point.
Exactly, and you can look at a couple things too when it comes to that, because like sometimes the bun can be elevated due to the amount of protein that person's eating as well. That person's having an extremely high protein diet. They may need to take obviously things to assist with that, even from a digestive standpoint, or even like a kidney health standpoint. And then
Hmm.
again, going back to the hydration, that being a key part. Because the thing is, this all your elevations can kind of be a little all metrics can be slightly be elevated or tweaked based on hydration when getting blood work done to an extent.
Yes.
Because it talks about the viscosity of your blood, right? And everything's measured per deciliter. So like if you have thicker blood, it concentrates things a little bit more. Um, there's been times that I went to go donate blood and I couldn't donate blood because my hematocrit was too high, and I would literally the next day chug 2 gallons of water and go give blood, and then my hematocrit would be in correct ranges. Again, it's small little things like that make it the adjustment, but that's also why to have accurate blood work, it's super important that you go into that hydrated, right? Like you don't want to take this snapshot and not be the most accurate because something as preventable as drinking water set you back.
And training
I
can
agree.
also affect it as well. You train the day before.
Exactly.
That's why you don't
Yeah,
train
like
before.
so when it comes to like the liver enzymes, right? Like if
Mhm.
you have a heavy training session the day before, those enzymes can definitely be elevated from training. But obviously there's a whole host of things that are also elevated as well. Like obviously PED usage being one probably the big one that I would think of immediately when it comes to that. And this is something
Orals,
that's
yeah.
very preventable. Um, there's supplementations like Tudka by itself is super helpful for again keeping these things in normal ranges. Um, and like if any of you guys are ever looking for a Tudka source, Leviathan makes a crazy good health products. The Tudka is one of the few Tudkas I know of that are actually lab tested. So a great place to ever pick up Tudka if you actually need it. But it's such a preventable marker. It's I would say it's one of the things that you could easily mitigate from a health perspective with supplementation. Um, and like we'll even talk about you, Coleman,
Yeah.
when your liver enzymes were elevated due to your genetic ailment, that was able to be brought down through supplementation.
Yeah. I think my liver enzymes were 3 times higher than what they should have been. I think it was like 150 when it should have been.
Mhm.
My AST was 150 and my ALT was like 120-ish, somewhere
Mhm.
in that range. So it was like 3 times the amount and like 2.3 times the amount that it should have been. And I think what we did was use glutathione,
Mhm.
which is probably the most powerful antioxidant known to man. Injectable glutathione, 1 cc. I think it was every other day.
Yep.
Tudka. Trying to think what else we used. I think we used one more thing.
Yeah, possibly. But like those two things by themselves are
So
super
the
helpful for keeping those things in ranges. And like again, the injectable glutathione is something that like I feel like not everyone even knows about, but it's something that should be in everyone's back pocket. Because like especially in contest prep, if you're running more PEDs than you normally run, especially things that are slightly more aggressive, like you are only as healthy as your organs inside of you. And we've seen a lot of people's careers cut short due to things like this. So it's such a preventable measure. And I understand like things get expensive, but if you're gonna cut like on any perspective, like cut out something else that in your personal life. Like I don't know, like buy a cheaper car or like I don't know, stop buying like I don't know, like Gatorade Zeros. Like reduce the expense from somewhere else to buy injectable glutathione if you're running a fuck ton of shit. Or if you have any genetic ailments. That's why I love glutathione so much because like in even some cool studies they've shown it actually reverse fatty liver disease, which is nuts
Wow.
from an antioxidant perspective. But like again, it's such a preventative marker to keep in good ranges. So there's almost no reason if you know where it's at and you get blood work done regularly, make sure you just do the proper supplementation to keep in good ranges. I understand that sometimes obviously in periods of pushing it might be slightly out of range. But obviously like consider that on how long it's out of range, right? Because like if you're out of reference ranges for 32 weeks a year, that's not a dice I'm willing to roll. But obviously it's something that It's how do I put it? It's risk mitigation. It's called
Yeah.
that. Um, you mitigate the
Yeah, I
amount
think
of
you
risk by supplementation.
Mhm.
yeah, I think you have my ones from on cycle with using glutathione, and then from when I came off and wasn't using glutathione. I sent you the first one, the 816 one was middle of prep this year, which was when my androgen load was the highest it's ever been.
Mm-hmm.
Still not significantly high at all, very
Yep.
low, but
Yeah,
I
let me
think
pull it
yeah,
up.
yeah, I think that would be a good thing to show. And there, it was perfectly within range, I believe.
612, right?
Yeah, 612 9. Well, that's my birthday.
Oh yeah.
816 should have been the day that the bloods were pulled, not the Quest one.
LabCorp, right?
Yep, LabCorp.
That's right. That's sweet. So even going back to this, obviously being in prep, bun and creatine a little elevated. But going back to liver enzymes, how close the auto reference range in the middle of prep? AST is 1 point over elevation. ALT is literally 8 points above elevation. So
Yeah,
we're still very close in reference range in the peak of prep. And again, like
yeah,
you said, with the highest amount of androgen load. So like
yeah. This was what, 2 months? No, not even 2 months. Maybe like a month out from Michelle.
looking for the
You
date
said it
drawn
was
right here.
August?
They
Yeah,
reported
August.
816. There you go, 816.
Yeah, so like 2.
Yeah,
Yeah, a little bit less than 2 months out,
yeah.
which
And that's the thing is that like with the proper supplementation, we can stay pretty close.
yeah,
Again,
without a
with the
doubt.
highest estrogen load, you're 8 points away at worst from a reference
Yeah,
range standpoint.
yeah. And my dumbass didn't drink water before I went. That was my own fault.
Yeah, potato
I think
potato.
yeah, I mean can't change it now.
Yeah, but I'm sure it would have been close enough.
Oh
Given how
yeah.
you went. But again, those are something that's extremely preventable and easy to mitigate during.
Yeah,
How
especially
big
with
you
your
break?
liver. Your liver is very residual gland. Well, we'll be able to fight back pretty much so anything and take a lot of beat up.
Right? Right
Exactly.
back.
It's one of the fastest rejuvenating organs that we have by far.
Mhm.
Mhm.
But Bree, what would you say is the next marker that you think we should look at?
I think the thyroid.
Totally, for sure. And the cool thing about like when it comes to thyroid health is that it's kind of an indicator of many things when it comes to that person. You can kind of I'm not saying like it always lines up perfectly, but you normally will see that the person with a slightly higher elevated thyroid level is typically more of an active person. And it also comes because that person also has more energy, but it's also the chicken before the egg. Did that person have an elevated thyroid because they were so active, or their elevated thyroid make them more active? Um, yeah, but the cool thing about that is that when it comes to contest prep, you would actually expect obviously like your thyroid to function at a better rate at the end. But what actually happens throughout contest prep is that the hormone becomes downregulated because the person's under more physical stress, and the food consumption is getting lower and lower and lower with the activity level getting higher and higher and higher. That's why you see like the drug T3 is used often throughout prep. Obviously, it makes everything easier, but also because it helps break through that little wall when someone's T3 hormone is slightly dipping down during the prep cycle. And that's why it's super important to also do post-show blood work to make sure it goes back to normal ranges because you don't want that person um, in essence, walking around with their thyroid downregulated for a long period of time is going to make their rebound suck. They're going to put on fat faster than they normally should have, and like the energy is not going to be there. They're going to be fatigued all the time, which again is not a fun place to be either.
Right. And
Not at
same with
all.
people crash dieting instead of like not only just contest prep, but when people crash diet.
Exactly. No, no, no. And like there's a lot of clients that I've worked with that did like a bunch of fad diets, like did like the cabbage soup shit. Like I know you might that'd be too old for you guys, but like people used to do like the cabbage soup diet, and they would eat nothing but cabbage soup for like 20 fucking days. Yeah,
Never heard of it.
And like cabbage has nothing, dude. Like cabbage is like fucking like
Yeah, it's
10
water.
carbs for like fucking a whole head. It's fucking stupid.
Like
But they would have cabbage soup for 3 times a day. That's what they would fucking eat. So it's like starving for 20 days in essence.
Pretty much.
Or they would do like I don't know like the 2 meals. One meal, two shake type things. And anyway, they would come to me and the thyroid's in the worst place, and they'd be like, "Oh, like I have a slow thyroid. That's why I can't lose weight." I'm like, I think you have a slow thyroid because you were impatient and you did all these fucking things first. And like that's the thing is that like if you crash diet and you're the person who skips breakfast every day and lives off caffeine and doesn't eat until dinner time, like you don't have a slow thyroid. You're not fat because you have a slow thyroid. Your activities that you've done created your thyroid to be slow, and now as a byproduct, you're gaining weight quicker than you should.
Yeah.
But that's like
Spot on.
it's like the average American, right? Like not to criticize anyone, but like everyone's living the rat race, right? So they're waking up in the morning, they're rushing to get the kids ready, they grab their cup of coffee, they run out the door, they go for their commute, they get to work, they're running late because Susie didn't want to put on her fucking sandals before she got on the school bus. So I can't even stop and get like a Starbucks bagel. So I'm living off coffee until lunchtime. And you know what? I don't want to actually eat anything healthy. So I want to bury my feelings in this fried burrito and then go that route. And then I'm going to skip dinner for God knows what reason because I'm going to have beer instead.
Most common thing to happen right now.
But the thing about again going back to the thyroid is like it does affect your energy level so much, and so like those people who actually have a slow thyroid or have who are medically put on T3 for the right reasons, a lot of times those people can be weaned off that drug if their lifestyle actually improves. And I've seen it with a lot of my clients, especially my lifestyle clients, is the ones who came to me who were like 300 pounds and didn't work out, but were taking like 100 micrograms of T3 a day from their doctor, were the same exact ones that after starting to work out 3 times a week, 4 times a week, their dosage was able to be reduced several times, just because the thyroid was just slow because activity level didn't exist. There was no reason for it to work at a higher rate. Why would you encourage a body to burn more energy that's not doing anything?
Right. And I think that's so crazy that they just reach for that first instead of exercise and nutrition.
I will quote someone's doctor. We treat symptoms. We treat symptoms.
It's so hurts my
And
head.
and
I'll
like
never
that's the thing is
understand that.
no one gets paid off telling someone to exercise. No one gets paid.
Right.
No one gets paid. No one gets, like the money stops there.
Mm-hmm. So sad.
Yeah.
Like literally any doctor be like, you know what? Before I put you on metformin, let me see if you can you walk 3 times a day. Can you walk after each meal? And like if a doctor actually told someone that, I guarantee a lot of people would fucking do it compared to if I told them to do it.
Yeah. Because they got a PhD.
Yeah, but then they wouldn't be making any money. So
Exactly.
right.
You don't have someone filling another prescription.
Mm-hmm. And that's what
I'm not demonizing metformin. It has its benefits, and it's definitely one of my favorite drugs from a life extension standpoint. But like if someone doesn't need it, they don't need it.
I agree.
And same thing with obviously going back to the blood sugar thing. Like those who have elevated blood sugar already, who don't really work out and don't live an active lifestyle, like same exact people. Sometimes those people just implementing living a better lifestyle, it gets better in a few weeks.
It just takes time.
Mm-hmm.
People just want the quick fix.
We look at everything. Everything breaks down from a metabolic issue, because like again, we are beings based off energy. We are made out of carbon. We consume carbohydrates. We break everything down, right? And we make energy all day. So if the energy process does not work correctly, everything else falls apart as a byproduct. So if I am I eating food and then my food is being broken down and I can't metabolize it correctly, so my blood sugar is high all day, and if my blood sugar is high all day, I have all these other risk factors that are going to lead to possibly something else. My cholesterol is increasing at a faster rate because my blood sugar is through the roof all day, and I have all the other neurological problems because my blood sugar is high all day, and it's all these small little trickle down effects. And the funny thing is, just someone living a slightly healthier lifestyle, all those things go away.
Mhm.
And normally, all the people need exercise.
Exactly.
But the next one I wanted to cover is sex hormones, and this is actually one that when I ask natural people this one who bodybuild, sometimes they're kind of confused. But sex hormones do change a lot through contest prep. Women, their estrogen can actually plummet a lot due to the body fat getting very, very low. Men, our testosterone can go in the tank as well from all the overtraining, from the calories being so low, the amount of physical stress, testosterone go in the tank as well. And these hormones should recover post show. And this is the thing why post show blood work is super important, because if they're not increasing at the proper rates and they don't go back to normal ranges, we need to intervene somewhere and make sure they get back. Especially when it comes to females, because it's a little harder to fix sometimes. Men, obviously, supplementation is always a solution for us in most cases. For women, it's slightly more difficult sometimes, especially ones who take a longer period of time to get their period post show. Especially like ones who have not used birth control before. Because one who used birth control, they're in a little different department. But the ones who weren't taking birth control, decided to do a contest prep, lost it mid prep, and have never regained it. It's like, okay, like what am I going to do post show to bring that person back in the ranges? And then the same thing with the men is, okay, he's sitting around the 300 still. Shit, what should I do to try to increase it? Should I give him more food? Are we gonna try to do it through natural supplementation? Are we gonna have him take HCG for a little bit with some Coleman and see if that helps him improve? And then after there, do we lean towards again the supplementation? And the reason why, like, obviously, we know building muscle is super important when it comes to sex hormones. But even for those who come into the program naturally, it's super important to know and understand, because I've seen a lot of my male clients, especially my lifestyle ones, that have come to me with low testosterone and who are already actively working out. So they weren't like couch potatoes; they were already training. So like them lifting with me didn't affect those sex hormones at all because they were already active. Maybe slightly just from having more food than they were eating before, but it didn't really drastically increase it or change it at all. And this was like the point is like, okay, are we going to lean towards supplementation? And by supplementation, I mean testosterone replacement therapy. Or are we just going to kind of do our best with what we have? And like, I'll use one of my clients, like Patrick Cross, like the implementation of testosterone changed his whole entire body. And he was someone who had low T, and literally the moment we introduced testosterone, he started putting on muscle at a dramatic rate. And we're talking about 150 milligrams a week, not even a crazy amount of testosterone. And he's sitting around like the 1,000 range, and he was like being around the 1,000 range when he gets blood work done. And for a change in demeanor, a change in how he feels, his metabolism shot through the roof. His T3 and T4 are almost off the charts in essence, specifically just because we added in testosterone. And it was the key thing that put him back in a good range. And like, I always like referencing a car because I feel like the analogy works for so many people. Just because you have oil in the car, it doesn't mean you should drive the car. If the oil is low, you should get more oil. If your gas is low, you should get more gas. There's never a point in time you're like, I'm just gonna keep driving around like this and see what happens. Right. And like there is a functional level to be at, and there's an optimal level to be at. And like,
yeah,
why would you not want to feel optimal?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, you got a point. Like being in the 300s is not a fun time.
Like, and there's so many things with men that are different when people have low T. Like having low T affects their heart health, right? Having low testosterone can lead to heart disease just as bad as high testosterone. Look at like mood and depression, like are greatly impacted. Anxiety are greatly impacted by having low T alone. Now, obviously, being on the opposite side of the spectrum and being 1,000+, you can also have negative side effects as well from a mental health standpoint and a feel standpoint. But why would you want to be tired all day? Why would you not want your workouts to feel good? Why would you want to have low sex drive? Like all those things that make you feel better, I don't understand why anyone wouldn't want them. But the drastic change of just going from deficient to being optimal, I've seen change whole physiques, especially for my middle-aged men who were scared to go get therapy done because they thought it was going to be a much harder process, or they thought it was much more demonized because like they watched like the baseball trials when that was a thing after like during the 2000s when Sammy Sosa and all them were accused of using steroids and all they were using was testosterone at the time. So like all these people thought that, oh my god, like I'm juicing if I'm taking testosterone. Like no, it's no different than your wife taking like soy isoflavins to help her or estrogen to help her during menopause. It's literally no different, or no different than your 16-year-old daughter taking birth control, which I'm not in favor of, but it's chemically no different. You're just taking an artificial version of the sex hormone that you already make.
To help bring you back to a normal range. It's not like
Yeah. And like obviously like in bodybuilding we use it to more an extreme level, but we're just talking about general health and a Gen Pop client or someone who just wants to live the lifestyle and doesn't want to be a bodybuilder and put their health at risk either, right? Just being in an optimal range makes everything better. And same thing with women. I've seen women that had extremely high estrogen, and once we pulled the estrogen down to normal ranges, weight fell off like it was like nothing, and because it held them back so much in other manners. It's hormones have an optimal range to be in, and being out of those ranges affect everything from a metabolic standpoint to a mood standpoint to an energy production standpoint. And again, like so many things nowadays affect our hormones, environmental factors, things found in food, stress levels, additives, even some scents they're saying are related to things like fucking vaping. Like there's so many things that affect our hormones nowadays that it's good to know where you're at and understand, do you feel the way you feel because of something you're doing in a lifestyle way, or are you feeling the way you feel because of something deeper going on internally?
Mm-hmm.
well said.
But I know we wanted to cover how PEDs affect certain markers. And I know we kind of covered a lot of the markers today already, but we can just kind of go over the ones I normally look at. So we look at most PEDs, all PEDs will affect lipid profile to some extent. So obviously cholesterol being a factor that we all look at. Now, I don't want to look at just obviously like LDL, I want to look at HDL as well. And the reason why is that some drugs we do take are cardiovascularly toxic and can bring our HDL even lower. So we look at drugs like Anavar. This can actually bring down our HDL. We look at most aromatase inhibitors like Arimidex or Aromasin. These can also drive down your HDL as well. Now, obviously, having your HDL in lower ranges can actually contribute to things like heart disease. So it's kind of better to keep that in a healthy reference range if we can. Now, I do understand during prep scenarios, these numbers do go low. Even we saw in Coleman's Bloodwork, his was in the 40s. Again, the reference range there is 50 or above is good. So like, was he below? Absolutely. But like, if he was in a much lower scenario, we'd probably do even more things to assist with cardiovascular health, maybe even adding in more EFAs into his diet to assist with that, since his contest prep was pretty low in fat. It was mostly a high carb, moderate protein based diet when it came to his prep. But in that case, if the numbers got lower, I would probably add more EFAs and try to pull more carbs to compensate for it. Now, this is a number that I normally try to improve in the off season, because after a show, normally those numbers aren't always the best when it comes to cholesterol. And that's just being the nature of the beast, right? Because you can only do so much for cholesterol while you're in prep, especially with drugs without affecting the diet too much. Now, in the off season, that's probably one of the first things that I see do improve post show after the implementation of post show like supplementation and everything else. That is something I normally do see and the second round of blood. So I normally get a round of bloods done a few weeks following the show, and then we do another one a few months later. And when we do the bloods a few months later, that one is normally greatly improved by cholesterol the most. The next things I would look at would be liver enzymes. Now, these are affected again by most of the PEDs we do take, and if we're doing the correct supplementation throughout contest prep, the risk mitigation here is great. Even things like we talked about, like the injectable glutathione, can greatly keep these numbers in range. So again, like they will move out of range during prep, but they shouldn't be in the hundreds at all during contest prep with the proper mitigation going on. Again, post-show, those things will kind of go back to ranges pretty quickly. Those numbers do seem to recover quickly, especially if you do. In our case, we use injectable glutathione a lot. We do see those numbers improve really rapidly. In 2 to 3 months, you're back in perfect ranges there. Also going over like kidney function, like BUN, eGFR, creatine, all these things like that also. Especially if someone's using a bunch of oral-based drugs throughout contest prep, using like Anavar, using even like oral Oroplen, things like this. Definitely want to make sure that kidney function is in good place as well. And obviously, like doing things like calcium is really important, but doing C-reactive protein. Now, C-reactive protein is a test that I don't see a lot of people order, but it's a measurement of inflammation of your heart. And so this is something that they measure to see if someone has had a heart attack in the past or just had a heart attack. Also, why can't I think of it? Myocarditis. Like if there's enough C-reactive protein, it's an indicator that someone has myocarditis, which is again the severe inflammation of the heart. And a lot of drugs can actually impact this. And we look at not only anabolics, but also again going back to aromatase inhibitors. Things like aromasin directly can affect this. But also things like the 19-ol family, like Tren, can affect this as well. So like we look at like a contest prep scenario, someone's typically in a lot of cases using some type of aromatase inhibitor. They are also using Tren normally at one point in their prep, let's just say like almost everyone is nowadays during contest prep to some extent. And obviously they have some type of base as well of test. Now, the combo of the three of these will cause some inflammation. Now, granted, like there's a lot of things that someone can do, again, keeping the liver in a better place can help keep the inflammation down, but something that does happen. But the goal is to keep this under the score of 1. Anything below 1 is in a good range. This past year, or last, I guess it's almost this past year still, from my past experience working with someone else, my C-reactive got up to a 7. And so like for a reference range, like 7's like almost like post heart attack almost. And it was just due to the compounds that I was using at the time with the coach I was working with the protocol. And I explained how I felt a lot. I had no idea why I was so sluggish. I had no idea why I had no appetite. I had no idea why I felt weak in the gym. I felt like I wasn't recovering, period. But it was due to how my body responded to the PEDs. And this was something that we weren't checking frequently. And it was someone, in my case, where we should have checked frequently. But it's something that if you don't check, I highly recommend checking on a regular basis, especially post-show. Anytime I've ever done it, since then, it's been below point anything, almost to 0. But obviously, it was the pre-contest drugs that would really inflame my heart a lot. Now, not everyone has this response when it comes to PEDs. Some people don't. But it is something, again, to keep in mind, because it is again, affects your heart that drastically, because myocarditis is a pretty big fucking deal. And like, as we can see, you can get it from other things besides PEDs, but inflammation of your heart can obviously also cause the growth of your heart as well. And being male bodybuilders, we probably will take testosterone until the day we die, almost. Because I don't know about you guys, but like after all this, we're gonna be at a very low range at going off completely. So most of us will take a TRT dose at least of 100 milligrams a week. So if you already have it in enlarged heart, that's not really suggested at all. So it's again something I would keep in ranges now. Make sure that's something you check regularly. Again, also doing like physical testing, like doing calcium scoring, is something I highly recommend as well.
Someone actually messaged me the other day and asked us a question, and I'll pitch it here. What are the main levels that we look for initially in blood work?
Yeah,
That
great
was the main
question.
question.
So like honestly, going over like the basic ones, like going again, like glucose being one. We're gonna look at basic, obviously lipid profile. It's not as important out of the gate because like your cholesterol is not really impacting what am I doing with you. From a dietary standpoint, it more so impact like okay, like are you even healthy enough to take PEDs? Um, Obviously like testosterone being one, T3 being another big factor. Like if the person is enhanced, I'm looking more at the health markers like the kidney and liver. But if someone's not enhanced, I'm gonna look over them. But I normally don't look too deep into them because they're normally always in ranges because there's no reason for them to really be out of range. But those are the big ones I'd probably say. Obviously, like the blood sugar because it affects how I do the diet, hormones because I want to see if someone's in range. Those are the big ones.
Yeah, I would also say maybe like your hematocrit, your red blood cell count, stuff like that on your CBC. Sometimes those could be a little bit skewed.
Yeah, for sure. I look at it from perspective is that like if someone's not enhanced, I don't again like if they are skewed, it's not probably because of their diet, right? Like if someone
Yeah,
eats a fuck ton of red meat, I'm like, okay, that's why, and they're not enhanced. I'm like, okay, that's why you're 18.2. Makes sense.
makes sense.
Blood builders, right? But
Yeah.
I love it. Um, do we have any stories to tell before we close out? So for those listening, me, Bree, and Coleman end up going out for sushi with Dr. Sakib, a couple other friends, last night for sushi, and I always eat like an asshole when I go get all you can eat sushi because I don't know how else to eat sushi. I guess
Literally,
like I don't
like
know how to eat.
you're Kirby.
Yeah, no, I
You are
totally Kirby.
Kirby.
Yeah, no, I Kirby'd that for sure. I was so hungry
Kirby
because
with
like I had a really
sushi.
good quad day before that, and the way I lined up my meals because I worked out kind of late, that my meal directly before that was my post workout meal, and my post workout meal holds me over for like no period of time.
Yeah.
So I was like, okay, sushi would be good. Like we get there 7:30, like 7:45, 7:50. No, it was 10. I think it was 10. We got
Yeah,
seated
we were
almost
standing there, but we
10
got
o'clock,
an
there.
hour
yeah.
and a half.
Yeah.
Yeah, 90
I was
minutes.
even 30 minutes late.
Yeah,
We were
no.
late. We got there at like almost 8.
No, you're right. You're right. Yeah, that fucking sucked. Anyway, so when the food came, I ate like I've never seen food before. I was literally drinking soy sauce previously to that. Um,
Dipping it in the
chopsticks,
The end.
yeah.
chopstick.
The end of the chopstick.
So there's this video on Nat Geo I think of every time I do that. So there's this video of a gorilla licking a stick and shoving it in an ant hole and then pulling it out and then eating all the ants off of it. Since he licked it, the ant stuck to it. And that's what I kept thinking of each time I was dipping my chopstick in soy sauce.
I
Really,
wish
I'm,
we
I'm just
knew.
a smarter gorilla. That's all I am right now.
I like how the chef was
Angry
really
gorilla.
concerned about our order too.
Yeah, no, he knew. He knew we were all hungry. He felt it. He knew the
Yeah, I mean,
juju was
we
off.
were like looking over our shoulders.
Yeah, and like I don't know.
You almost took the tray of sushi that was coming by our table to somebody else's.
I know we don't look angry to us, but I'm pretty sure we look like an aggressive table.
Oh yeah.
Again, like I don't view us this way, but like
Yeah,
from an
no.
outsider's perspective, they're like, "Oh, you should be." They're going to be a hassle if you don't get them food.
Yeah, we
Of the
definitely
seven
had
of
some
us,
RBFs on our
Yeah, we do.
of
faces
the 7 of us, 4 of us are over 200 pounds.
and
The fall, that's
hangry.
right.
Not
Yeah.
good.
So when the food finally came, I ate as fast as I could, um, and because I don't know how else to eat. Like I've never seen food before. Um, but anyway, I've had this cough for like 5 months now. This won't go away. I feel like I'm stuck with it for life. It's like my new thing. Like some people have a limp, I have a cough. I'm stuck with it. But if I cough with me being full, I happen to throw up every time. And on my drive home, I just started coughing for no reason. And immediately I just started throwing up my sushi. And I tried to catch it in my hand and start throwing it out the window. Like, like in the cartoons when the boat's filling with water and they have a bucket and they start dumping it out. I felt like that was me with vomit.
I'm getting you a
catching it and
puke
throwing it out the
bucket.
window. It came out in pieces. And then finally, I guess like just me just tasting in my mouth, my body like, nope, it's all coming up now. So I pulled over the road and I had to get like naked in the street. Took off all my clothes. I took all my clothes. I folded it all and I put it in my trunk. And lucky for me that I'm like a germaphobe right now, that I have Lysol wipes in my car. So I was able to at least like scoop up and like I totally littered though. I will admit that I did not clean them off the side of the road. I left them on the side of the road, but I scooped it up with Lysol wipes and just threw it on the side of the road. So I kind of gave myself a half-ass car wash last night with Lysol wipes.
That's always fun.
Yeah, I'm getting you a puke bucket for your car.
You totally
That
should.
makes 2 of you out of the 3 of us that have thrown up after sushi.
Yeah, no. We gotta get shirts made, bro.
We do.
Last one standing. Last one standing.
You're next.
Yeah, no.
I'll never throw up after sushi.
No, he's gonna get like the worst diarrhea ever.
But you said you got diarrhea.
To be fair, I'm very, very certain that they gave me spicy salmon instead of spicy tuna, and I'm allergic to salmon, so I'll leave it at that and do
like
as you please with your
alfalfa and
imagining.
like buckwheat and
Whole list.
Timothy hay.
Timothy grass.
Timothy grass.
Definitely allergic to that one.
So you just can't have a hamster again.
I never had a hamster.
What? It's good that you did it because you're allergic to their fucking hay. The shit they eat Timothy grass.
Oh, I didn't know that.
Yeah.
That makes sense why they put it on there.
Yeah. So if you ever have a child, you can't touch the food. You can't clean the cage. You literally, and that's your loophole for life. So if your wife's like, hey, you got to clean out the hamster cage for young Ronnie Coleman.
For young Ronnie Coleman.
You can say, I can't do it, honey. I'm allergic to Timothy grass. You have a loophole for life.
I know. It's genius. I didn't think of it like that.
There you go. That's the only superpower you have, Coleman.
I don't know. I think my leg genetics are up there.
Allergic to grass and got legs.
Yeah.
It's not a bad trade-off, honestly.
Yeah, no.
I'll take that trade-off every time.
Take it.
Yeah, we'll give you legs, but you just can't go on this grass.
I don't think that's the real grass, bro. That's literally given to hamsters. I think it's like a hay tree thing.
Oh, I don't know.
But you're allergic to it.
We'll go. You know what? We're pulling this up. We'll find. I'll see in what Timothy grass looks like right now.
Imagine it just looks like green grass.
You also need an EpiPen.
Working on it. I have to go to the
Oh, I am
allergist
totally
first.
fucking wrong.
Yes.
Yeah.
Shit.
Nope.
No. Now I still
Now
have to
you
clean
don't have the
cage.
hamster loophole. But we
No,
can
you don't
pretend.
anymore. No, it's this fucking thing.
Oh.
These bastards.
Oh, that makes fucking sense.
Well, hold on.
I love how
Timothy
you're
grass,
allergic to it and you don't know what it looks like.
hamster
Not a
food.
clue.
Hold on. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah,
you
it
were
is.
right.
Yeah.
See, you guys still got the hamster loophole. I guess this is what happens. You dry it up.
Ah. Well, no hamsters.
You're gonna get them a lame pet like a goldfish or a fucking Well, those crabs people get at the fucking
Hermit
boardwalk.
crabs.
Yeah,
crabs.
Those smell so bad.
It's gross.
Oh, I know. They smell awful.
They smell like jock itch. That's what they smell like. Just jock itch.
Really bad. Like, I'm trying to think of how to describe it.
It's like vinegary.
Vinegar and salt, yeah.
I kind of want salt and vinegar chips now.
I don't like salt and vinegar chips.
Are you indifferent, Brie?
I don't like them.
You don't like them? You don't like burning the roof of your mouth off?
No.
I used to like them when I was younger.
I have to ask,
And
do you
by
like Captain Crunch then?
I don't like
Me?
Captain Crunch.
It's not
No?
bad.
Mm-mm.
What cereal did you like as a kid?
Cinnamon Toast Crunch.
Okay, I respect that.
Or Reese's Puffs.
Okay, Coleman?
I didn't really eat cereal much as a kid.
Same. But when
I
I
was more of
did,
a
I
Whole
love
Foods type of
Sugar
person.
Smacks.
You know which one I actually really liked that was pretty good? Like it's more recent. Crave cereal.
Yeah, those are cool. No,
They're
Sugar
cool,
Smacks my
but
shit.
they're literally just loaded with like they had s'mores ones. Those ones were good.
Some more.
I am seeing if Sugar Smacks still exists.
I've never
They
heard
probably
of
do. Or Chex Mix. Chex Mix is good. I don't really classify it as a cereal though.
Oh, I used to love Pops. Pops was my
Oh,
shit.
I know what you're talking about. Yeah.
The big yellow ones.
Yeah, honestly, I think my sister eats it still. I think it's downstairs.
Aren't they pretty much just Rice Puffs?
Yeah.
So essentially, you're just eating rice.
I'm okay with that.
Mhm.
Better than Rice Krispies.
Oh, for
I
sure.
like I love Rice Krispies.
When you do it every day for like 2.5 years, it kind of gets old.
It's one
There's
of the
only so
highlights of
much
my day.
cinnamon. There's only so much cinnamon you can put in it.
Dude,
You're
buy those Skinny Girl syrups.
That's what I do.
Yeah, Skinny Girl syrups.
He won't let me. Whatever.
Let her do things to it. You put Skinny Girl syrup in it. You have a million flavors.
Yeah, I always ask
Oh.
him if he wants any when I go and get them, and he's no, it's fine.
God
Nah,
damn, I
I'm
keep
good.
getting the thing.
Now I did a little bit of Frosted Flakes for a little bit.
Yeah, Cass was doing that too.
Yeah, it broke the trend for a little bit. It made it easier to get down.
It would cut my mouth so much if I did that.
I feel like it would.
You
Yeah.
gotta let it soak a little bit. That's a trick.
Facts.
Or you blend it and drink it.
That just
I
takes
feel
all
like
the fun out of it.
Yeah, blending it just takes the fun out of it. Like, if I'm gonna have a cereal, I'm gonna enjoy that bitch.
Right.
Like,
I'm
or
going for
I'm going to
efficiency.
use Rice Krispie again. 'Cause, like Rice Krispie, like yeah, I'm cool blending that because nothing fancy about it. But like,
Yeah.
if I switch to like Frosted Flakes, I'm more than great.
Man, I was just going for
man.
I was just going for efficiency.
But I would love to talk about cereal all day with you, Coleman. Well, I appreciate you all for watching Coach's Corner again. Make sure that you like and subscribe below. If you have any questions, please shoot any of us a message on Instagram. Until next time, guys, take care.